it's time to talk about one of the biggest transfer stories of... It's the biggest of the CS2 era, probably. After Nico. Maybe. Bigger than Nico. I think it's bigger than Nico. Because of the implications. And also the Nico one was kind of obvious. It's about Monesy. Monesy has now officially joined Falcons. Degster is now officially out of Falcons. I was at a tournament when all of this was happening. That's why I wasn't on a stream already explaining this. So for all the people, for all the late cells, right, I couldn't help but be late for this one. It happened. I wasn't even able to stream. I'm streaming as quick as I can. I just got back. But it is a huge one. And one, of course, we predicted. And you saw the reactions at the end. Obviously, Nico in tears. And Monesy and him had a little moment where Monesy said, I said goodbye to him. Which we're now hearing reports that even though Falcons want Monesy and were willing to pay up to $3 million for him, which would be a pretty decent return on a $600,000 investment, they aren't going to sell. And look, he's only got 1 year left on his contract. I think it's probably inevitable he plays for Falcons or plays with Nico, assuming it will be at Falcons. So, you know, just crazy. Because they were kindred spirits, and let's be real, who the fuck wants to be the sole star player on a lineup where you have to deal with Snacks, who should never have been brought into IGL G2? By the way, a lot of people go, but didn't you hate Hooksy? More on that later in this stream. Never hated him. Respect the man. Think he's not good enough for tier 1 IGLing. But I made a video on it, and I said something along the lines of, like, out of all the people you could have got, you managed to find the one IGL that's so underwhelming, it might persuade people sticking with Hooksy's a good idea. Now, I, of course, was in the anyone but Hooksy camp, but Snacks has stretched that thought process to fucking breaking point, hasn't he? Because he's fucking bad. He's very bad. He's statistically on a par with Hooksy. He's slightly better because he Snacks, obviously, and was a much better player than Hooksy had ever been in his entire career. But his IGLing is fucking shit. Like, it's really bad. It's objectively... Even I'm going... You can't just keep going to the same bomb site and doing these shit execute. Sure. No, he does. He does that. It happens. Me and Maui, we had the conversation. Yeah, Maui was right from the start on this one. You're going to have to accept it. You're just going to have to accept it. Not a sophisticated IGL. That much was clear from the Gamer Legion days. We saw that, knew that was coming. But anyway, it wasn't a surprise when it was announced. The timing was a surprise. And look, before we get into the weeds and the order of the report, I'll just tell you this. It's my understanding from talking to old heads from back in the day that the way the deal was originally constructed, because you remember Carlos, right? You remember pre-Andrew Tate Gate Carlos, the CEO of G2 that did so much good work. He obviously flew out to Stockholm to negotiate the deal to get Monesy in. And I think it was agreed $600,000 cash. But baked into that deal, I think, was also a first refusal. That Na'Vi, if they ever wanted Monesy back, they could do that. Don't know what's gone on there, but obviously things have changed globally, geopolitically, let's say. No one's really talked about that. But anyway, it was one of the most legendary signings. He's been there at fucking G2 all this time. And it's pretty wild that he's gone. I really thought him and Nico would have won a major together and become this legacy unit. It just didn't work out like that. So we'll all wait and see what stories come out in the coming weeks, months, years. But for me, it's kind of like, I don't know, this whole Falcons just gobbling people up to get a super team thing is like, it was that was also predictable. Said many times on the record, Falcons are going to keep buying players until they have enough firepower to just win tournaments. And then they're going to say, oh, look, aren't we all brilliant? Anyway, let's start with the initial report, shall we? Obviously, it was Nel. By the way, Nel quit. But whenever one of his French executive buddies and managers want to leak him a story, he's back. Fine, I guess. Here it is. He typed it up with flags and everything. That's how you know it's serious. To be fair, Nel does have a good record. I maintain this. He's insufferable, but he does have a good record. You know, you got to hand it to them. This winter, Nico joined Falcons in a huge move for the scene. After more than 4 years with G2, the Bosnian left to try his luck in an ambitious new project. Ambitious, not the word I would use. The word I would use, and the word would be accurate, was desperate. For you see, Falcons had fumbled a top 10 lineup with the Ents core, who were finishing top 10 and winning. They won one tournament. They bought that lineup so they get the invites. It went backwards. They dropped to something insane at one point, like 50th in the world, despite all of that money. And then they just said, fuck it, we'll buy another core. So they went with Heroic, and they did it at the last minute, and it was not what they wanted. And they'd already tried to get Monesy, and they genuinely thought he was coming. And they tried to get Jimmy from Mouse, right? And all of this is known. And they failed to land the big players, so they got the Heroic core, which also included degster, who was being cut by the Heroic core for reasons we still don't know publicly, but brought back, given a second life, given 3 months of getting the bag before, once again, you're deemed surplus to requirements. It's like there's no plan over there or something, but whatever. But it's ambitious, you see. It was ambitious the whole time. It's not desperate. It's not just chucking shit at a wall and seeing what sticks. It's not just spending money because you've got more of it than everyone else. It's ambition. Genuine ambition. So he went to this ambitious project, did Nico, and over there was Magisk and Kixan, degster, and Tezes. On the G2 side, the future of Monesy had been in question since his non-departure in December. Announced to be joining Falcons with Nico, G2 held firm and decided to bet on the Russian sniper for 2025. A rather risky choice, given that the former Na'Vi junior had only 1 year remaining on his contract. That's right, his contract would be expiring this December 2025, and the organisation could therefore lose him for free. Despite the arrival of the promising Heavy God in the team, not everything went according to plan for G2 at the start of the year. G2's recent performances in the first tournaments of the year have been disappointing, I'll say. It's almost as if we could pinpoint the exact cause of that, but more on that later. While Monesy has remained an outstanding player, the team's inability to convert its firepower into trophies or even just top 4 finishes in the last 3 tournaments is starting to raise questions. If the intention is to convince Monesy to stay, the start of the year has certainly had the opposite effect and confirmed his desire to go elsewhere. According to my sources, I'm not going to tell you who the sources might be, how they're related to the situation, or have any knowledge of the situation, which is just standard journalistic practice, which you would expect. You would say, so according to sources with knowledge of the situation, according to sources to Monesy, and according to these sources, they've asked for anonymity for the... We're not doing any of that. It's just a tweet. It doesn't even matter, does it? No one's doing any of this professionally. Monesy has reportedly signed with Falcons in bold, and will join the team in the next few weeks before the Austin Major. He logically replaces the team sniper degster. It would appear that Falcons' continued interest has managed to tip the balance in what appears to be a multi-million-dollar deal and the biggest transfer in Counter-Strike history. You ever notice when Falcons sign people, sign cores, it's always the biggest deal. Never a number, though. Never a specific. It's just always the biggest deal. And everyone just repeats that. Numbers? They're the biggest deal, and that's a good thing for you. Why don't you tell us how much you spent, Falcon? Really weird, by the way, because the CEO's always on Twitter arguing about how little money they spend. You know, whatever. You want to do the propaganda thing, that's up to you. I like facts. I like numbers, you know. Whatever. Not a problem. After more than 3 years with the team, the loss of Monesy leaves a huge hole in G2's firepower and perhaps even in their identity. Don't know what that means. It's editorializing. After the loss of Nico, the intention was to build on Monesy, but the departure of the AWP superstar leaves a huge hole at all levels, and G2 are bound to struggle to recover. Also not necessarily true. You know, could just find an incredible AWP, that's as good as Monesy was in an academy team, and dominate and win. You know, but fine, they're fucked, I guess. Definitely didn't come from someone associated with the org. Kind of give the game away on this one, but fine. Falcons, for their part, have shown mixed fortunes at the start of the year, with a great top 2 finish at the PGL Cluj-Napoca, but also an early exit at the IEM Katowice. And those 2 tournaments, I wonder if we could discern some differences between them. Well, that's to be expected from a team that has to rebuild completely. Perfect editorial. It's Falcons. It's to be expected that they go out in last place at IM Katowice, guys. If you thought otherwise, you're idiots. With the arrival of Monesy, the Falcons project has gone from ambitious to terrifying, and now looks set to stay put for a long time to come. And there they are, and he's even used a picture of Nico and Monesy shaking hands. I believe that was in the first time they played after the departure. So, obviously, that is, it's editorializing mixed with reporting. But the report turned out to be right. And as I said, when it comes to just the straight reporting of things, Nell is very rarely wrong. He's one of the better guys in that regard. And so when this came out, we sort of knew it was happening. And, of course, just to add to that from the CEO of G2, and he said, what a lovely day not to be on socials. Need to wait for some deadlines to talk, but I will come back to you next week with our side of the story and our plans for the future. Hashtag G2 wins. So it was all but confirmed ahead of Bucharest. We all knew which direction it was going to go in. We all knew the deal was done. Now, I'll add here, and I'll repeat what I said on broadcast. What side, bro? He wants to leave. His contract ends at the end of December. You got big dicked by Falcons. Not just big dicked. I'm going to use the term long dicked, because if you've ever listened to the Bobby Digital album by RZA, you'll get the reference. But yeah, you got long dicked by Falcons, and I'll tell you why. Because you don't sell your best player before the fucking major, right? But I can tell you guys this. What was going on behind the scenes was a fucking stare down. They said, if you don't give us Monesy before the major, you don't let us buy him, we won't buy him. We'll wait till December, and you'll get fuck all. And we'll just pay him the bonus, right? So they got long-dicked. Because what you wouldn't sell now. You can just have him after the major. Let's have one more major. No, we want him now. We'll pay you millions now. So that's what went down there. So I don't want to know about your side, because I guarantee your side isn't going to use the term long-dicked. You're going to pretend this was 5D chess. You're going to pretend that this was all part of the plan. You got gamed by a player that you couldn't keep and an org that is a rival of yours because of your bad front office bullshit. And we'll get to that also in a second. So, anyway, we go to Bucharest. We all know what's happening. Obviously, it's fucking GG. Monesy's out. Fine. And obviously, we end up playing through the fucking competition, doing our thing. But nobody seemed to give a shit about the implications. So when we were there, it was pretty clear that that the deal was definitely done as well. And why do I say that? We couldn't interview Monesy individually. That was off the table. Like, no interviews with Monesy. Can we interview degster at Falcons? No. We saw James Banks. He tried. He asked Snacks, what's going on? Is that like cast a crazy cloud over the team? Snacks was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Perfect. Nothing to see here, I guess. And so, of course, I knew in that moment, it's going to be a Falcons G2 final, isn't it? Of course it is. It's going to be a Falcons G2 final, and that's what we got. Now, I don't need to talk too much about the result, beyond the fact that G2 were pathetic, G2 were hapless, Falcons absolutely battered them, degster was the MVP, and gave a great speech, actually, at the end of the tournament. But I'll just bring this up. Nobody wants to have this conversation. Nobody wanted to have this conversation. I was quite clever this time. I thought, I'm not going to tweet about it. I'm not going to bring it up in advance. But in a real sport, there would certainly, well, not in all sports, but in a lot of real sports, you certainly wouldn't be able to sign a player and then have him play for your opponent in a final, in a tournament. And I'm going to just tell you, the registration date for the major was the 11th of April. This final played on the 13th. Monesy was contractually and in every way a Falcons player when he played this, because that was when you had to be registered for Austin. And he was registered, it's been seen, he was registered for Falcons for Austin. So he was a Falcons player. He might have been wearing a G2 jersey, but he's a Falcons player in this moment in time. Now, look, I'm also going to be straight with you. I don't think there was any bullshit in this game. I don't think anyone fucking threw or did anything. I don't think Monesy would even think that way. I've got nothing against the kid. I think he's got a good head on his shoulders. He was the best player in the tournament up until the final and weren't even close. But in an ordinary sport, that wouldn't happen. It should have been Taz, unfortunately, playing there. And that's how it would have worked in football, for instance. You don't let a lone player or someone you've sold and has a contract with another team, they don't get to play against you. But in the Premier League, we changed that in 2004, and I know that because it was a Newcastle player. It happened to. It was Lamano Luar. He fucking went and played for Portsmouth on loan, played against us, scored against us like in the last minute for a 1-1 draw, and then Newcastle complained to the league and said, we can't have loan players playing against us. We pay his fucking salary and he's just scored against us, which is the inverse of what would be alleged here on Reddit or internet forums. But the point still stands that after that, if you were a lone player, you couldn't play against your parent club. And that just seems to me to be moving forward. If we want to take away something positive for the space, maybe if you're registered for another team in the future because the deal's been done, maybe you don't play against that team in a tournament. No one cares. In fact, by the time this makes it to YouTube, and then by the time an out-of-context clip from that YouTube video makes it to Reddit, posted on a burner account by an account that only ever posts negative things about me, everyone's going to be telling me to kill myself again, as if my opinion is the one that's out of whack and out of alignment with the world. And they'll probably even find obscure references from baseball and other sports. Well, everyone knew he was going to the Yankees, and on it goes. The bottom line is this wasn't good for anybody, was it? I mean, that's just the reality. So anyway, it was evident from the get-go Falcons were going to win. It just had that ring about it from the moment they started playing better. Once they got battered by Gamer Legion, I knew what was coming. And so we did it. We didn't talk about it the entire time. And then almost instantly, it was just like, yep, right, well, hope you all enjoyed that. It's time to confirm everything on all these things that might be up in the air. Degster benched, boom, 23, soon to be 24. He posted profoundly, every ending is a new beginning, because it turns out you can just post single sentence profound things. Friends out there might want to pay attention to that. And it's a shame for Degster. It was like an MVP performance. He got, obviously, first trophy won in an 8-year-long pro career, and immediately benched, right? And one of the things that I thought was like just weird, was like really over-the-top hugs and high fives and loving each other. Like, I understand it. He's in a very similar position like where Nork was. Device is coming, you're not Device. Monesy's coming, you're not Monesy. But he'd really been playing out of his skin, and it just shows you the Falcons management, they don't value you, by the way. If you're a player, they don't value you. Like, it doesn't matter how well you play. Career best performances, if they think they can upgrade you, they will. And that was the other funny part, actually, because there was this, which is mental, and I don't know why this would ever happen, but Falcons set sights on Kyosuke, which is the fucking meme player that everyone just hits up. He's in Spirit Academy. Everyone's hyping him up as the next big thing. And so this story broke on the 8th of April, the day after everyone landed in Bucharest, and he was going to be replacing Tezes after the major. So Tezes, by the way, has to play in this lineup going, well, it's me next, isn't it? He's just got to play. He's got to go to a major and play. Knowing that no matter how shit Magisk plays, no chance of him going. Him and Danny got the fucking check-stealing game on lockdown, so, fine. But this is a totally unproven rookie. And we're talking about it as if, it's just a natural move for him to go to Falcons. Falcons don't understand anything. They understand that it doesn't matter how much money it costs them. That's why they ended up with Simple, with all the problems he had. Remember the report I told you? Before Simple went again to Falcons, I told you months in advance they were trying to get Simple from Na'Vi because they wanted, quote, once they signed Nico, Messi and Ronaldo at the same club. That's how they think about it. Now, because Kyusuke is he's cracked, he's amazing, he's so good. Has he played at a senior level yet? Has he won any trophies? Been to LAN? Played in a stadium in front of a crowd, baying for him to fail? Hasn't done any of those things? You're going to sign him to a tier 1 team, are you? And just throw him in the deep end at 17? All right, do it. Doesn't always work out, guys. But, hey, it doesn't matter. Doesn't even matter if it fails. Because it's only money. Doesn't matter if it fails and it fucks this kid's career up. It's only money. We'll just sign another good player. We'll sign another good core. We'll just keep going until we're number 1. And then we'll add more bullshit stars to our jersey. That's the Falcons way. They're not a real team. They're not a real org. They're not like anything we've seen in esports before. And, Tezes, good luck putting up with that, mate. Because, they don't value you. Hope you don't have an MVP performance at the major, because that will certainly cement your fate. So anyway, the other thing that happened, of course, was the minute the tournament ended. Boom. Everyone had shit to say. Monesy wasted no time. He got on Telegram. That's all. Thanks to everyone who supported G2 and me all this time. It was a stage that made me stronger. People who will remain in my memory forever. The team that was home, a second family. By the way, he's wasted no time in shitting on that second family. Don't think everyone's in that second family. Thank you for everything. The story here is over. The story inside is never. And there you go. So we were like, all right, he's definitely gone then. He's just gone. Not a problem. It happens, right? Like at the end of the day, people move on. He wants to play with Nico. That's pretty much what it's all about. And so, of course, it got confirmed by Falcons. They had it ready to go in drafts. Boom. The Russian Opera is reuniting with Nico and the Saudi organizations. Here you go. Brace yourselves. Let's watch the video. Brace yourselves. Monesy and Falcons are coming. Hashtag Falcons are here.
In a game of milliseconds, where every flick can make history, speed isn't just an advantage, it's a weapon, and no one controls it like him. They call him the Yellow Flash. The game slows down for him. The rest are just trying to keep up. The baby goat? Sure. But don't let the name fool you. He's not here to grow. He's here.
Lots to break down there. Don't know why he's the Yellow Flash, guys. Got thoughts. Is that AI? Probably. When did they do this? Kind of also important, given the whole thing we just talked about. Doesn't matter. Shades of CSGO roll on that one. He's the baby goat. Is he the baby goat or the Yellow Flash? Because, listen, guys, we got to pick a nickname for this kid. And baby goat is fucking dumb. Baby goat is the dumbest, shittest nickname you could give anyone. Goat is very clear. Right? It's the greatest of all time. It can only be given to one person. You can have a debate about who that person is, but you don't go, well, he's the GOAT, but he's young and kind of good, so he's a baby GOAT. There's no such thing. It's just dog shit. So choose, and I would recommend, just call him the Flash. That's what I call him. He's the Flash. The Flash is the fastest. The Flash will do. Not Yellow Flash. Not all the varieties Flash. Not Green Lantern. Baby Goat is just mental. Baby Flash. Yeah, why not? Mix them up. Pick a fucking nickname, guys. I think I know which one they're going to stick with, because they've already started fucking marketing him. Because, of course, they have. Because it's Saudi. Whoa, get to the Falcons store, lads. Get to the Falcons store. Get the baby goat jersey from our store now. Enable a fetch translation. Enable a fetch translation because you're not logged in. And this fucking website shit under Elon Musk. But get the baby goat jersey. Fuck are we doing? This used to be a sport, guys. Anyway, baby goat. I haven't even looked at the website. Let's look at the website, actually. How much is a baby goat jersey? Does anyone know what that is? What any of this says? He's even modelled the jersey. He's been there a day. Anyway, there you go. Baby goat. Buy the jersey. Get the jersey Monesy player. Turn the piece before washing and ironing. Do not use chlorine. Right? It's just good. That's good advice. This is good advice. Ironing is preferred. Steam. Use Steam only. They even offer financing. thought you all had money. What's going on? You're offering financing on a jersey? What the fuck? I've got to do layaway to look like the baby goat? This is a joke. This is a sick joke, guys. This used to be real. It's right. Thank you. Dexter in the chat has confirmed it's £42. That's very reasonable, actually, for a jersey of the baby goat. A star player jersey for £42 is good value for money, actually. So, congratulations. I will not be buying one because I'd have to finance it and I can't afford that right now. Anyway, so they confirmed it, didn't they? So it was done now. Now, if you think that's the end of the story, that should be the end of the story, shouldn't it? We've done a transfer. Baby goat's gone to Falcons. Degster's not in there anymore. We don't know where he's going. He's just gone. He's just helped us win our first ever trophy. But fuck him, because we love our teams at Falcons and we love our players. Now, in a normal world, this would just be the end of it. Player moves from here to here. Everybody goes, cool. It's all understood, right, why he's gone. Monesy doesn't really have faith in the G2 project. That's about to become apparent. He wants to play with Nico. Nico's already at Falcons. Falcons pay more than anyone else, can have any players they want, even though they're all doing interviews going, well, it's not about the bag. It's not about the bag. I'm the bag. Sonic's the bag. They do all. It's about the bag. The only reason to play for Falcons and deal with the bullshit is the bag. And eventually, on a long enough timeline, you'll win everything, get a bigger bag. But everyone's going to be like, well, you know, all the real sports fans are going to be like, yeah, okay, you took some blood money. You played in a blood money team. You played in a roster that couldn't fail. And even though somehow they've managed to make it fail for over a year, you know, success was essentially guaranteed. You bought your shit. You're a Real Madrid. You know, you're a Blackburn Rovers. Old heads remember. You know, whatever. Good for you. Right? So, it should end there. But unfortunately, because it's Monesy leaving G2, everyone at G2 had to come out and say some shit about how it's not their fault. You know, they try to preempt it all. Right, like, oh, we're running a good dog. We're really good. And we're going to be better in the future. It's like, all right, really? Okay, well, let's see. Strap on your baby goat jerseys. And let's see what Stilgar, that's the G2 CEO that replaced Carlos, that we had on an episode of The Four Horsemen one time, who didn't listen to me about getting Shuhei. So, you know, you made your own bed here. Also, the more I've thought about it, like, adopting the name Stilgar, that's like some maniacal shit. That's like calling yourself esports Jesus, or taking the name Castro for yourself. Like, what kind of insanity is that? Who does that kind of thing? So, fine. Anyway, as you can see there, he's ex-Riot Games and ex-Coca-Cola, so sound. The rumors are true. We've decided to accept the trade. We accept there is no trade. We're getting to that. There is no, you've traded for nothing. You have sold him. It's like, you don't call the sale of an object a trade. I traded my car. What for? Money. Oh, you sold it then? No, I traded it. Did you get a car in return? Nah, money. No, that's called selling, right? The words, yeah. I'm a stickler on these words. So we decided to accept the trade of our young goat of CS. Again, is he a goat? Is he the goat? Is this the claim? Because this young goat, baby goat, mountain goat, none of this works for me, mate. You have to earn these things. You earn these honorifics. I can only ask you to direct your feedback to me and not to the CS management, staff, or players, as this was a decision on org level. Now, I'll direct it to all of the people involved, because I know, again, this wasn't just you, so fine. Ilya's contract ends in December of this year, and we decided to maximise our chance of rebuilding our team. That's not what you did. You maximised your chances of getting money, which were exactly 0 if you didn't sell him when Falcons told you to. Not to mention, let's go big head for this, because I would like you all to think about this. Let's imagine there was a country, right, that had bought everything in esports and then set up something called, I don't know, the esports Copa de Mundial. I don't know why they're speaking Spanish, but, theoretically, a lot of people do. And they set that up, and then they give all of these other organizations money. And they also just so happen to have a team that's not state-funded, wink, wink, but is. But it isn't, because we can't prove it. Because where they're from, you never have to declare that. And even though we say you do have to declare these things in Counter-Strike, they've never been made to, right? So let's imagine all of those people are involved in the sort of same thing. And then if they say to you, we want the player now or we're going to fuck you over, what could that mean? It might not just mean you get 0 in future for the esports Copa de Mundial. It might mean, all sorts of things. Maybe you could get frozen out of leagues, ladders, competitions. Maybe stipends don't get paid. Maybe things get difficult. Maybe other organizations are discouraged from doing business with you. All I'm saying is an environment like that wouldn't be particularly good or healthy, and people might feel pressure to do things against their own business interests because they want to appease certain parties. Something to think about, right? I mean, I'm sure it would never happen in esports, one of the most provably corrupt sewers of all time. But anyway, that's fine. Back to this. We decided to maximise our chances of rebuilding our team for the future with this trade, instead of hoping for a last-minute turn of events. I'm very sad to see Ilya go, but I wish him the best and thank him for the magic moments he gave us. After 4 years of failing to lift CS trophies under the previous management, we haven't done a lot of lifting in yours, mate. And reminder, it was the previous management that bought Monesy. This roster and their staff have finally landed 6 trophies in the last 2 years for the G2 banner, including Cologne and Katowice, among others we won't name because we secretly know they're a joke. It was obvious that he was becoming a bit disconnected from the rest of the team due to his situation, and it was very difficult to have meaningful conversations with potential talents without the clarity around his future. In other words, do you want to join G2? Will I be playing with Monesy? We can't tell you. I'm really good. As much as Heavy God seems a cool cat and Malbs is trying his hardest, I'm alright actually. Now that the decision has been made, we are going to make the best of the last 3 events of the season and work in parallel to prepare for the next season with, that word again, ambition. Everyone's ambitious, man. We're all so ambitious in esports. Isn't that crazy? Falcons are ambitious. G2 are ambitious. So ambitious, they're selling players. I mean, by the way, if they won this major and then the second major, which still hasn't been officially announced, of course, because apparently it's only Valve events that don't have to announce a year in advance. Fine. Imagine if they won 2 majors on the bounce with a lineup. Does he still go and join Falcons? I don't know. But you didn't try. You weren't that ambitious. You looked at a pile of money and you said, I'd rather have that than Monesy. Or rather, I'd rather have that now and then no Monesy 2 majors later. So no, you're not that ambitious, G2. In fact, that's the opposite of ambition. That's playing it safe. Ambition is where you swing for the fences and you take risks. But that's fine, right? It's just PR bullshit. So you can choose to believe it or not. G2 is one of the only organizations globally to perform at the highest level in all AAA games like League, Valorant, that's Valorant, and CS. We have a legacy of building rosters and making players into stars, and if we fail to hit our always high expectations, we're not afraid to reset and rebuild. After League of Legends 2021, 8 trophies in 11 finals out of 11 possible. After Valorant 2022 and 2023, winning our first VCT Americas and making it all the way to the Masters final. Counter-Strike will be no different. Success is guaranteed. You know that. While departures are oftentimes hard, and some are even painful, we are looking forward to unleashing the full potential of a new roster. We are samurai, not because we always win, but because we always get back up. Samurai, of course, famously fighting to the death. So if you lose, you don't get back up. But whatever. We'll workshop that one. Also, yeah, as a samurai, if you fail abjectly, you commit seppuku. Or harikiri. I always forget which way round it is. Was harikiri the one for women? Pretty sure harikiri's the one for men, and seppuku's just a general term for both genders of the cutting of the belly, but whatever. I don't know. I'm not a weeb, am I? So, this didn't necessarily go over well with everybody. Yanko dropped this literally before he went to bed, I think. I think this might have been like the last day. Before we flew out, and he was like, Ilya's contract ends because he didn't want to re-sign with Nico leaving, a player you could have kept if you wanted to. By the way, people forget that aspect of it. When Nico left, G2 went, we could have kept him if you wanted to. Spoiler, they absolutely could not have kept him if they wanted to. And they clearly didn't want to, because they were under no obligation to sell, but they did. They thought they could be slick and have the money and put Malbs into Nico's positions, persuade Monesy to stick around, and it was all going to be okay. Counter-Strike isn't League, and it sure as hell ain't Valorant. The rebuild will be long and painful because players like Nico and Monesy are generational talents, not something you simply develop. Props for the accountability, I guess, and this second part of it is also true. If you ever get a player like Nico in your hands, you have got to fucking hold on to them. If you get 2 players, Monesy and Nico, in the same roster, and somehow you're able to augment them with up-and-coming players that love playing with them, will try their hardest to play with them, you got to hold on to them. You got to do whatever it takes to keep them, because G2 will probably never have a roster as good as the rosters they've had in recent years, particularly not in the CS2 era, and particularly not unless you are willing to spend lots of cash. And I'll also tell you another problem you've got. You're not Falcons, so you can't just go out and say, we want Nico, we want Monesy, how much is it going to cost? 6 months left on a contract, $2.5 million. Right? You're G2. You can't do that. Realistically, even with the Saudi money, with your sponsorships, you can't do that. You won't do that. You couldn't justify that to the board. So what are you going to do? Well, you're talking about a rebuild. We're going to get to the replacement for Monesy. How fucking underwhelming it is, even as a short-term option. You fucked up. You've mismanaged this. There's no two ways about it. You knew they were a package deal. You knew they liked playing with each other. You needed to keep them both. You fended off the advances once. Why couldn't you do it a second time? Anyway, not that we need to get into that. Let's get into this. Everyone at G2 felt compelled to post things after Monesy went. This is Pekka, right? Pekka, his official title is general manager, but you've seen him at events. Time flies. I joined G2 in November 2022, stepping in right after the team failed to qualify for the Rio Major. Remember those days? Remember me screaming, get out, get the fuck out of my major with that god-awful Hooksy squad. Following several dry years without lifting a trophy, I inherited a squad whose head coach had just departed, a roster burdened with low morale, frustrations, and disappointing results. From the very first day, my focus has been on operational excellence, injecting renewed energy, determination, and unmatched dedication into our project, hard work, passion, transparency within the team. Together, we've turned adversity into triumph, securing victories at the Blast World Finals in 2022. That's like a while ago now, buddy. IEM Katowice and IEM Cologne in 2023. Yep, still a while ago. IEM Dallas in 2024. Any details you want to give us about that? Like how you used the stand-in, whose mind is mush, for your IGL and you won? And yet you all stood by that IGL publicly? Yep, all right, no. Blast Fall Finals 2024, and capping it off with another Blast World Finals title in 2024. 2025 began harshly, losing our star player mid-season. Now, hits even harder with the departure of the best player in the world. You don't have Donk or Ziwu in your lineup, mate. So, that hasn't happened, has it? The backlash has been fierce. I'm flooded with hateful messages, accusations, and even death threats. Yes, welcome to esports. The fans are trash. Tonight, after a tough loss in the finals, emotions run high and criticism comes easy. But let me make something crystal clear. Love me or hate me, right? I don't know why this is all about you, man. Scapegoat me or point fingers. I'm not going anywhere. After honest, deep discussions with G2's leadership and my own offer to resign after poor results and recent changes, I stand here more committed than ever. This piece of information, by the way, the offer to resign, that is going to come back to haunt you. Just also telling you about the future, right? Because the next 12 months for your org suck in CS. Your team is going to suck in CS. And people are going to blame not just you, they're now going to blame the people that didn't accept your resignation. So you haven't mitigated anything with that admission. You've simply amplified it. Cool. Our foundation is strong, built through sweat, sacrifice, and relentless pursuit of excellence. This is the beginning of a new chapter for G2. Trust the process, trust the resilience of our team, and know this. We will rise again, reclaim our glory, or go down swinging with everything we have, and we will not give up. Remember, Rome wasn't built in a day, neither will this new era of G2. G2 fans know Rome wasn't built in a day because they went nearly 5 years without a fucking trophy. Yeah, it definitely isn't built in a day, buddy. Then somehow you acquire generational talent and have a fantastic fucking lineup, and as soon as the big checks come out, you sell those players to a rival, a direct rival, a rival, by the way, who just beat you at an eminently winnable tournament. Didn't just beat you, beat the fucking pants off you. Humiliated you. A team themselves who have been embarrassing for over a year. Humiliated you. In a best of 5, they 3-0'd you. You're G2. That was the G2 with Monesy. Now you don't have Monesy. I don't know. What's the process? Is the process get generational talent, have shit IGLs, win nothing? Generational talent gets frustrated. We sell generational talent, have worse lineups, win nothing for 5 years, find generational talent. I don't like that as a process if I'm a fan of G2, if I'm being honest with you. And to call that excellence, it might be the most retarded thing anyone's said, ever. There's nothing excellent about that, is there? Like, you stretch the trophies you won between 2022 and 2025 and the opportunities that you had to win trophies in a scene that was getting weaker and weaker and weaker. Excellence is a ridiculous word to use. So, but fine. So Pekka had his say. Great. That was fun. And then we had this as well. Taz had his say. I'll say this about this. Taz knows how to keep a low profile on this one. Good idea, my old friend. Decisions in big organizations like G2 Esports are never easy. There are plenty of circumstances that play a role in team building. I'm never in doubt about the direction. Keep doing a great job, Pekka and Alban. That's still Gar, in case you don't know. Is it a good or bad spot? Not the best, not the worst. That's actually the correct take. That's the philosophical take. There is work to be done, and definitely we have players in the team who can deliver. I'm excited for a challenge. We are going against the odds. Been there many times in my career. Taz certainly has. Enjoy the show. Winky face G2 Army. Best statement out of all of them, actually. I don't want you to think it's just G2 that are being retarded, because Falcons wasted no time in saying something equally ridiculous and stupid. Lars Robbel is part of the Bag duo of Zonic and himself. He is the sports psychologist and director of performance, a major winner with Astralis, was at Vitality when they won their major. Sounds good on paper, but then you see the things that these people say, and it's like, I don't know, does your brain work? Do you think about things? Because, like, you know, as a journalist, when I type up things, with the exception of my failure to agree the Oxford comma needs to be used, which it doesn't, I think about what I'm typing and how it could be interpreted and whether it's factual, all this stuff you have to go through as a journalist. Nothing embodies trust the plan, trust the process more than this run. From a 0-2 start to lifting a trophy with a clean sweep over G2 in the final, what a statement. We are your PGL Bucharest champions. And he's quote tweeted the Falcons graphic. Here they are. Look, you can see Kixon doing the pointy to his head. Right? Magisk is looking like that actor that tortures Jesse in Breaking Bad. Right? It's looking like that. Tezes is looking very studious, but what you can't see there is he's staring at the HLTV report about being replaced by Kyosuke. Nico is just like, I'm going to be sad until Monesy arrives. And Degster has just been turned into Lenny out of Mice and Men. Like, he's just been took out back. Yeah, no. Great MVP performance. No, of course. Pretending the rabbits, Degster. That's what we're doing. So they put that graphic out, and this is the response from Lars Robbel, right? Lars Robbel. Trust the process, trust the plan. Now, I don't know if anyone can see anything wrong with that statement on the day that it is apparent you are going to break up your roster. But just in case, more than happy to explain it to everyone. The plan is kind of less egregious, but Falcons have never had a plan. Like, they don't have a plan. The plan is play tournament. Are we still bad? Yes. Can we buy another player? Sure. Cool. Do it. Are we still bad? Yeah. Can we buy another player? Kind of not really. We're not even going to get invites to tournaments. Should we buy another core? That would help, yeah. Okay, buy a core. All right, cool. Are we still bad? Yeah. Should we buy another player? I think we need a star player. Let's buy a star player. Are we still bad? Yeah. What's the problem? Well, I think we need another star player. Oh, okay. It's going to break up the core we just bought 3 months ago. All right, buy another star player. This is not a plan. To call this a plan is ridiculous. A plan would have been to have developed the heroic core, bring in Nico, figure it out. You didn't give this any time at all, this lineup. And this is about the fourth lineup you've had since you started the Falcons project. To call it a plan is absurd. But I think more importantly, trust the process. So the process implies that in building this roster and bringing in these players, they've taken them from mediocrity. Spoiler, this lineup has been together for a really small amount of time. And now they've propelled them into winning trophies, right? Which is true. They did just win PGL Bucharest. I was there. I saw it with my own mince pies. So I did. I watched them do it. I watched them lift the trophy and go, yeah, make jokes about it. As if it isn't some sort of it shouldn't be some sort of big deal for them to lift any trophy. Because, spoiler, when you're at the events with Mouse and Vitality, even with Monesy, you're still going to fucking struggle, lads. You're still going to struggle. So, I've made peace with the fact you will be the number one team in the world one day, but guess what? You're still another roster move away from that, and you might even be another 2 roster moves away from that. But you're so enamored with your own process, Lars. You've just broke your process. You just cut Degster like that. Like it didn't matter that he was your MVP. Like it didn't matter he dropped fucking 30s in all these tournaments. Like it didn't matter he was still dialed in, even though he knew he was getting cut and he wasn't being allowed to do media work. By the way, standout in Cluj as well, when you made it to the final before losing to Mouse. That was also the best performance in your history at that point. You fucked that guy. There's no two ways about it. Yes, replacing him with Monesy, great long-term view, probably. But ultimately, no. If you trusted your process, you wouldn't sign Monesy, dickhead. I mean, again, this is just prima facie. This is reality. Trust the process that I myself don't even trust. And I just hate how all these fucking imbeciles in esports, they all want to make out like they've cracked it. They've got the secret. They got the Moneyball secret, right? You just got money, mate. You're not doing Moneyball. You're not some fucking genius. Your team has failed consistently with yours and Zonic's input for over a year. You have embarrassed yourselves. Even at the tournament you won, you got humbled by Gamer Legion that have a fraction of your resources and have actually gone out and scouted players. By the way, when we get to the Zonic segment, you said what Gamer Legion did can't be done. Fuck your process. So yeah, turns out everyone's capable of being a fucking idiot. Don't be under any illusions. And I guess we will also get to this part, right? We get this one out the way. Well, at least G2 have got a good replacement, right? Like, I mean, that's important. Your replacement matters. You're bringing in Hades, but you also know he's so shit, you're only bringing him in until the major's over. It's a one-tournament loan, effectively. All eyes on the major, and you're bringing in Hades. Now, I don't have a problem with Hades, in the sense that there's definitely rosters Hades could play on, right? Monty is one such roster. But you're G2, and this is how I know there is no plan for you either, because how the fuck do you sell Monesy before the major? You got long-dicked, remember. They got long-dicked. You sell Monesy before the major and you can't do better than Hades. You can't do better than Hades. Which is wild. Just looking at the numbers, he seems to enjoy a game against Aurora. Likes a game against Sangal. But I don't know. You know, dominating the basement boys. That might not cut it. And you know it doesn't cut it. And you've got him till June. Yeah. And by the way, not Eternal Fire Aurora. Like, old Aurora. So, this is the caliber of players he's been playing against. In the tournaments he's been playing against. And it's no disrespect to anyone in this caliber. But it's just like the step up between this and the major is mental. But anyway, fine. It's temporary. You're not beholden to him. Who do you think you're going to get? That's my question. Who's coming in for Monesy? Who's the replacement? Who's the AWPer that's out there that you're going to get that's going to fill this void on a permanent basis? It just isn't there. There just isn't anybody there. All the people, by the way, saying they should there's people in the chat saying they should legit get Simple. I mean, I want to make it abundantly clear. If you enjoy your car crash, fine. But unfortunately, Simple needs, I don't know. You need something. He doesn't need to be thrown into G2. That's not going to help him either, frankly. It ain't him. So there's that. That's your replacement. That you're going to the major with that guy. Fine. Now, at least on the plus side, right? Monesy's not going to say anything bad about G2, right? Because, like, obviously, he loves G2. Said they were like a family. It's all going to be cool, you know. So don't worry about that. Like, that's good. You've got that side of the equation handled as well. Except you haven't, because James Banks, you've got to hand it to James. He's one of the hardest working people in esports. He went out and he hustled the first ever interview with Monesy for his podcast, 7 episodes in. It's called, by the way, I don't know why he didn't call it Take It to the Banks or something like that. He does it with Devil Walk, who's good people, friend of the stream. He's got a podcast now called All About Counter-Strike, but I would have absolutely called it Take It to the Banks. I would have done that. That's me. Whatever. He got the first ever interview with Monesy since he joined. And it's 2 hours long, because Monesy speaks impeccable English. You know, for an 18-year-old Russian, his English is incredible. And he's a very conscientious and smart kid. And here it is. So it's his first interview. Now, this, again, was recorded before, obviously, the announcement and everything. And it was put on ice, which sort of also tells you, we come back to that thing about should he have been playing in the final, whatever. But this is up to 62k views. The problem with long podcasts is always is that esports fans don't have attention spans, you know. If your video's longer than 10 minutes, the brain starts to melt or whatever. You can see people, Banks is a legend, being able to film this before the official announcement. He's obviously very well connected with the players, and you got to respect it. This is the type of shit me and Duncan used to do back in the day. Duncan still does this with reflections and that. I just can't be asked. It's like too much work, you know. You have to, all the groveling and bowing and scraping you have to do, all the favors, and just like, is it worth it? Like, just if you want to be on my show, you can just be on my show. You ask me, actually. That's where I'm at now, you know. But anyway, great stuff. Really good job by James. Problem is, for G2, this is terrible. And I'm going to tell you why. Because I'm going to play you some clips from it. And obviously, if you're interested, you totally should watch the whole thing. It's got look at the. He's even done the thing you say, oh, Richard, why don't you put bookmarks in? Banks has done it. Look, winning IEM Clone 2023, breaking the Na'Vi curse, Nico leaving, deciding to join Falcons. It's all in there, right? I'll do these in like kind of order of severity. We're starting with the least. When I looked at other teams, there was only one I wanted to join. Fortunately for him, it happened to be the one that paid the most. I'm kidding. I'm just kidding, Ilya. I'm just kidding. Obviously, it was the one Nico played for. That was the big draw. Exactly. He was just doing the Wolverine. You know, it's fine. I get it. You miss your buddies. Nothing wrong with that. Respect it. They do happen to pay the most, though. Anyway, he said a bunch of things. And here's a couple of clips that someone called Joe has compiled on Twitter. Remember, this is from James's podcast.
In G2, we had, I would say no structure. And, like, every time, for example, when you couldn't pop off very good individually, there was no structure. And
now, first thing I want to say here is, James is a great actor. James is a fucking great actor because we watch the games. We know you had no structure. We know your fucking T-sides and everything else were dog shit. We watch the games. And James was like, no, brilliant. James, mate, you killed it. You killed it with this interview. Because I would have been like, yeah, duh. But, I couldn't have done it. I couldn't have done it like you, mate. So anyway, let's just say it again.
In G2, we had, I would say no structure. And, like, every time, for example, when you couldn't pop off very good individually, there was no structure. And
so, right. Now, Stewie was in G2 for one event after having not played a competitive game for 2 years. He was terrible. They won because Hooksy just wasn't playing for them. And they won Dallas. And everyone pretended Stewie was good for a few weeks. By the way, can we do a quick sidebar? Just while we're here. Just a petty sidebar. A petty grievance throwback sidebar. So, he stood in for wild card, right? Recently. And they played a tier 5 team, which had exactly 2 players. Technically 3. All right, they're tier 4. They played a team called Might. And he had one of his best ever performances. And he did this. And this went to Reddit. And you can see. And by the way, people go, oh, they were just joking. They're never joking where favourites are concerned. They always say it. You can see here, I've seen enough. My goat Stewie is back. All of this, the blah, blah. You know, he's so good. Yeah, we love him. Stewie's the best. Yeah. But what actually ended up happening, funnily enough, and it's interesting because, you know, I was told after he stood in and won Dallas, playing shit doesn't matter if you have aura, right? Like, and what he did for them. Like, he actually won them Dallas. You know, sure, the crowd was like, you know, helping the NA player and what have you. We just have to accept that as a reality. No one's going to kick fans out of events. Fine. But what ended up happening, funnily enough, when he played M80, and in the game before against Chicken Coop. Okay. Right. Well, glad that aura helped. Oh, no, what's that? M80 beat them out. Might even have cost NA a slot. Wicked. Great. Cool. You've done it again, Reddit. Well done. Anyway, why don't we listen to this second clip? In fact, no. Now we can go back to summarizing the first clip. It's one thing to have Stewie go. Stewie, by the way, said he didn't know who fucking Donk was and all of that stuff in his interview on Maui's stream. He said that he thought Taz was more of a cheerleader. He shat on a few of his teammates, which is really funny, wasn't it? Because when he misread my tweet and got angry about it, and then went on his stream and said, "I've heard terrible things about Richard Lewis behind the scenes. Man, the things I heard about him that I totally can't tell you." He got mega upset because he said he was defending a teammate. I was criticizing Hooksy, who he's never played with. That's how fucking lost in the sauce he is, mate. So anyway, it's one thing to have Stewie say bad things about you on his stream. This is Monesy. This is like your fucking, after Nico, he was your star player. He's your franchise talent. You all call him the fucking baby goat. And he's saying you had no structure, right? No structure in the Snacks era. Let's go on. Let's do another one. This is shorter.
That's where Nico was very strong,
Mm-hmm.
He could call mid rounds on CT. But on T side, we had no structure, and we could have just played very freestylish way,
So Nico was calling on CT. On T side, they had no structure. At this point, guys, right? I've heard it in a million interviews. Malbs is saying he's doing more, having a quote louder voice on T side. Nico was calling on CT. Hunter's calling CT. Calling pistols. Why don't you just cut Snacks? What's he doing as an IGL at this point? Calling unstructured T sides. Not just the process. We're managing good at G2. We let Shui go on loan to Liquid. We are good at our jobs. You've picked back-to-back Hooksy and Snacks to lead your team. Meanwhile, you give Alexi B no chances, let Xtaz fuck him publicly. He then goes on to turn Na'Vi into the number one team. You didn't even keep Xtaz. You are not good at your jobs over at G2, guys. How many little data points, how much evidence do we need to make the case? Then there's this, which is deeply upsetting, but it shows your players will say any old shit.
Yeah. Right, and people were saying, he's not the leader they need, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. I mean, overall, Rasmus was getting a lot of bad comments just because of his, individual performance, and everyone was writing about it. And he just tried to, I don't know, for example, play more, because he is the guy who was working the most. I think he's the guy who's been working the most in our team. Who was working the most in our team, and he's the guy. The how to say it in English, блядь? The guy who was working the most I played. The
most you've ever played with.
Yeah, I never seen the guy working harder than him, for example, in terms of watching, preparing for the enemies. He was sometimes up until I don't know, maybe 3 a.m. to prepare against a team, to anti-strat them, or I don't know, something to have some important information for the next day for teammates, for the team. And this time he could maybe spend for example sleep, or have better sleep schedule, blah blah. But I mean, obviously it's crazy.
You have to sacrifice something to work so hard, right?
Yeah. But and obviously he was playing a lot of that match as well and everything. But I don't know, Rasmus was insane. Yeah, maybe he didn't show good individually sometimes, but for the team he was doing a lot.
Can I ask you this then? Would you say he was the best leader for you throughout your time in G2?
Leader?
Yeah, best in-game leader for you personally. I'm not asking you to rank him. I just mean as him.
Leader or in-game leader?
In-game leader.
In-game leader.
Because you had Alexi, you had Hooksy, and then you had Snacks.
No, I would say yes.
Yeah.
I would say yes.
Now, to be fair, for context, he didn't have Alexei for that long by comparison to Hooksy. And I find it hard to believe we could honestly say Hooksy is better than Alexei B. if we were just doing an apples to apples comparison. It doesn't matter that you've played with him. Obviously, people are going to have their favourites. I imagine a lot of people in G2 really like Rasmus, but certain things are self-evident. But that has certainly brought about some contentious reactions. But that's not what we're going to talk about here. We're not going to talk about a requiem for a Hooksy just yet. We're going to instead talk about, well, what that means for Snacks. And ultimately what it means is the reason Monesy left is because he didn't want to play with Snacks. It's not just that he wanted to play with Nico. He didn't want to play with fucking Snacks anymore. He couldn't do it anymore. He was fucking checked out with that bullshit. By the way, that's totally fine. That's reasonable. It has been so bad in terms of watching them and watching their results and watching their finishes. And remember, Bucharest, like I said, that is an eminently winnable tournament for them. They didn't even show up in the finals. They had nothing. Their strats were really bad on the T side. You got everyone saying, I'm calling this, I'm calling that, he's calling this. What's your IGL doing? I still can't believe they fumbled Shuhei. It's like blowing my mind. But like in 25, if you look at their finishes, this is what they've been able to achieve. This is what the post-Nico landscape has looked like. And now you've let Monesy go. You've took money. And listen, he would have left, probably, even if you'd won those fucking majors. But this is just where you are right now. You're not a top 5 team. That's just the reality. The other aspect in all of this is, of course, degster. A lot of people have thought maybe he could find a roster. I don't know. I think it's very complicated right now. As I showed you earlier, it's official. He is out. I definitely feel for degster. I don't think he's necessarily, like an amazing, mind-blowing player. But look at the form he was in across Bucharest. He had runs at Cluj, but, up until then, it's been hit and miss for sure. But, you finally get to, this kind of run of form at a tournament, and you're just out. You played some legit teams, Mongols, FaZe, G2. Turns out complexity are no joke. Ignore this. This was, the 0-2 performances. That's where they get battered 13-1, 13-2. But then, from here on out, that's the run of form he had. This is obviously the final against Mouse, which was rough for him in Cluj. The Eternal Fire game, I thought he did very well. Cluj wasn't necessarily the best. And then, see, further down, like say, hit or miss. But you finally get a run of form out of a player like this, and then you just cut him. And it's I don't know where he goes. I don't know where he goes. I don't know if there is a team out there that'll pick up degster. I really don't know. I've said multiple times today during the streaming of the MRQs, he's Russian, Russian nationality passport. It's very complicated to take a Russian into an international lineup because if you're having events in the US, you don't know what the fuck's going on, particularly with this administration. You don't know what's going to happen in Europe. You don't know what's going to happen with the situation and its potential to escalate. We're all assuming it's going to fizzle out and pieces around the corner, and that's not necessarily a given, unfortunately. And so we don't know if it could end up with a situation where Russians are just simply banned from traveling to European countries. It's not beyond the realms of possibility. It's been discussed with certain countries. So what do you do with that? Well, do you take the risk and pick up a player that's talented? Do you hope, do you encourage them to get a secondary passport, did they get residency somewhere else? I don't know. For me, I think probably if he it should be Zorte at BetBoom. I think you just replace Zorte and you bring in degster at BetBoom. He'll be playing on an all-Russian lineup in a team with a decent IGL, other firepower pieces around him. I think he could be a star there, As we've also talked about earlier today, they might bring in Perfecto for Siren. BetBoom looked like a really good team then. all of a sudden. And so it's possible he could land on his feet, but the way he handled himself and handled his business with all of this, it looked, a lot of respect earned. Degster hasn't always been the most mature player, and there's always been talks about him being difficult, but he handled this like a true pro, played his heart out. Basically, there's an argument to be made he won him the tournament. He destroyed FaZe in the semis. So, he's in the shop window. But Falcons don't care. They're a mercenary org for mercenaries. You just have to know what you're getting into when you go there. And now they have Monesy. And they're one step closer to the super team that will undoubtedly be the number one team in the world in the not too distant future.